terrible accent, but he'd have understood. It was a private joke, dears. Powered now by Arenda V8 engines. They're a turbocharged V8. Now, there are people that have said this is just a replica and it's not really important. Well, having been lucky enough to fly this aeroplane, I can tell you there is nothing on this aeroplane that is particularly modern. It's still got 1919 aerodynamics. And the North Atlantic is no warmer really now than it was in 1919, and if they'd gone into it on the crossing from Newfoundland to Ireland, they would have been just as dead as Alcock and Brown would have been if they'd hit the water. So it's tremendous. The Atlantic was flown by Mark Rebholz and Steve Fawcett.
And here it comes, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. This is living history. Just listen to the sound of those engines and look at that extraordinary flying machine. Give them a big wave, yes. Hi, guys. Awesome. Just look at it. That truly is those magnificent men in their flying machines, designed specifically for long-range missions. It was that feature that was put to such very good use when those courageous guys, Alcock and Brown, made that first ever aerial crossing of the Atlantic. 16 hours, I think, and 27 minutes, wasn't it, on June the 14th, 1919. They entered the history books, and they also claimed a £10,000 prize to become the most famous aviators of their generation. And £10,000 in those days, well, it is in these days, a serious amount of breadies.
Absolutely. This particular aeroplane, when it did the Atlantic flight itself, it took 18 hours, 19 minutes. It weighed 15,701 pounds when it took off, and it took 45 minutes to reach its initial cruising altitude of 1,500 feet. And it flew across the Atlantic at heights between 4,500 and 6,500 feet and landed on the golf course next to the peat bog where Alcock and Brown landed in 1919.
Look at this station coming out, and of course this was the one, as you said, Melvyn, that was flown by Steve Fawcett.
Indeed. It's quite a strange feeling sometimes.
I didn't say the late Steve Fawcett, because there's been a rumour going around that he did a runner, but anyway.
No, it's very strange to sit there in the seat though with his name on the side of the cowling sometimes.
Yes. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen, look at this.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I was very lucky enough to fly in this aircraft at the Farnborough Air Show as co-pilot. It's an interesting aeroplane, very heavy to fly, you have to anticipate, it's even hard to taxi. You've got to anticipate everything, and it's very, very ponderous. We do joke that this is the only aeroplane where it has bird strikes on the trailing edge of the wing. It's really not very fast.
Lordy, lordy, lordy.
I was also lucky enough to get a trip in the bomb aimer's position in the nose from Farnborough to Oxford. As we taxied out on the runway, my only thought, because you can't see anything. When you're in the nose, you have nothing in front of you at all. You just have the runway, and you think, if it does crash, I'm going to be first one there.
Of course, there is a lot of historical involvement and content here with Brooklands through Dunsfold Park and so on. Designed, of course, by Rex Pearson of Vickers Aviation.
Of course, he went on to design the Wellington.
Indeed.
Of course, people think Barnes Wallis did that. He was the structural engineer, not the aerodynamic designer. But bringing Jerry coming around, and we also have to say that there's been a sterling effort to get this aeroplane here. It actually blew a starter motor a couple of days ago, and so much running around and fixing was done to get it here, so they've done remarkably well.
And there's 600 horsepower Arendas, yes, two 600, so 1,200 horsepower.
That's right, although at low level they don't really develop all of that. They're happier at higher levels for the 600, so really they're only kicking out about 350 or 400 at low level, which is akin to the power that the original Rolls-Royce Eagle had.
Total weight seems to be about 7,000 kilos, I think.
Well, when it 15,701 pounds when it left Newfoundland, that had 1,198 US gallons of fuel on.
Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. What an opportunity for a floaty.
This was originally marked in the colours of Ross and Keith Smith's aircraft, Golf Echo Oscar Alpha uniform, which they said stood for God help all of us. And just under the nose on the right hand side of this aircraft is a little piece of the fabric from the original GEAOU, and that has now flown, that piece of fabric has now flown from England to Australia originally with Ross and Keith Smith. done it again on this aeroplane, has also done South Africa and the North Atlantic. But of course, this aircraft has also transcontinental crossed the United States from California to Canada.
And I think a total of 232 Vimys built, 134 of them at the Vickers factory at Brooklands.
Indeed, and only one of them made it to France before the end of the war. It's designed as a bomber that could bomb Berlin, so massive fuel capability and 1,000 pounds bomb load. And when it came time for what was known as the Atlantic race, when people were trying to cross the Atlantic, for example, Harry Hawker, whose name was given to the aircraft company, he tried it in the Sopwith Atlantic, sorry, and they ended up in the drink, but they were rescued. The Vimy was just an ideal long-range aeroplane. It's very heavy, very tiring to fly, and for those pilots among you, you will understand the meaning of the word differential aileron drag when you fly this over. The ailerons on this are about the same size as a Cessna 172 wing. And we always joke to people that it's a fly-by-wire aeroplane, and you can tell that because the wires run down the side of the cockpit and you can see them. So ladies and gentlemen, you see Doddy's waving, John Dodd waving there in the cockpit, being very careful not to put his arm out of the cockpit. And as we say, this aeroplane would not be flying without the vision of Peter Macmillan, who has done so much to help Brooklands Museum with this aeroplane as well. Now, I can't remember if Peter's here today, but if he is, hiya Pete. Now, as the Vimy departs, it's heading off now to its current base at Oxford.
Yes,
it should be there by Thursday.
It should be there by Thursday, bless it. What a piece of history, ladies and gentlemen. We are going from the Vickers Vimy to an aeroplane.